Three, two, one. This is Lacey Rice with KYSports.tv talking to Kentucky State University head women's basketball coach Serena Coleman about her thoroughbreds and their season thus far, especially their tournament or the classic that they played in earlier this year for the Coach C.Y. Russell Classic. Coach, how has your team performed thus far, and how did the Classic turn out?
The Classic turned out great. I mean, we had Fisk University, Kentucky Wesleyan, and then one of our conference reps, which is Central State University, in the Classic. We had a great turnout. We named it after C.Y. Russell. She's historically one of the best coaches in the women's program, historically. She won NAIA National Championship. So, you know, we want to always honor the past. So the kids recognize that there is some history here, and we want to always preserve that. And we did represent. We won both games. We beat Fisk University the first night by 19. I think we beat Kentucky Wesleyan by 20 the second night. So as far as representing what we wanted to represent starting the year, the kids did a great job of that.
Okay. You mentioned knowing the history and everything. How have you been able to connect with alumni who play?
Well, I first connected with the alumni was a few years ago when they got honored at the NAIA tournament. I unfortunately, because of a family emergency, that I was unable to meet the women of that team during that time. So to follow up, I didn't want to follow up with just a phone call saying basically, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to meet you, but we followed up with what we called the Breakfast of Champions. We also included the men's 1970, 71, 72 national championship team, and the women were really excited, very open, and the idea was more of a bridging the gap type of thing. So they had an opportunity to just talk to our young ladies during that time about how things were, and how they didn't realize going through that it was such an important thing. It gave me an opportunity to find out what the women were doing currently, for them to have the opportunity to find out what was going on with our program. A lot of the ladies had not been back for many years, had not really talked to any of the previous coaches, so it ended up being a really special thing. And I have a very great relationship with a lot of the ladies from that team. In fact, two of those ladies were honored for the Kentucky State Hall of Fame this past fall, and got to meet Miss Buford, who I didn't get to meet because she didn't have an opportunity to come down due to some personal matters for the Breakfast of Champions. And I had already, Miss Felicia Jordan had come down and talked to the team when we had the Breakfast of Champions. So it was more like a reunion versus let's meet Coach for the first time. And so, and a lot of the ladies still come back for a homecoming and things like that, and always ask about the team, and they're just very wonderful ladies, and have so much respect for them.
Okay. From the Breakfast of Champions and and your meetings and your conversations with the ladies, what have you been able to take from all that to apply to your team now?
Well, the one thing that I did realize is a lot of the same values that C.Y. Russell had during that time are a lot of the same things that we do currently. The importance of them carrying themselves a certain way, going to class. C.Y. Russell had those things in line. And every time I would talk about a rule that pertained to my current team, someone would say, but dang, that C.Y. Russell did the exact same thing. So for me, it was very comforting to know that those same values are being continued in the program. And obviously those values work, because in 1981 they won a NAIA National Championship. last year we were able to be Western Division champs. We, got an at-large bid to the NCAA. So, just understanding and knowing that history reflects success. So the same values, success doesn't change. It doesn't matter whether it's generational. It doesn't matter if it's socially. The same values or the same attributes that you buy in that are successful, you can be successful. And that doesn't change. As well as if you buy into the things that are unsuccessful. It doesn't matter whether it's generational or social or whatever, you will be unsuccessful. So it was more of a reassuring thing that, definitely we were heading in the right direction, but that breeds success, those same values.
Last year, you had actually gone on to a record winning streak for the women's basketball program. Do you think that your young ladies meeting some of the members of that team, some of the ladies that Coach Russell coached, as well as I believe you met Denise Goings, who's arguably the greatest woman athlete in Kentucky State history.
Right.
Do you think any of that transferred over to your ladies to make them want to attain these higher heights?
It's hard to make that connection. Definitely, knowing some history helps. But each kid is different in how they're motivated. I know that sometimes kids, even with knowing the history, some take it to heart and some don't. It was probably more, it was really good for the women, to know that what they have to say is important. And it really motivated me because I guess being an adult, having played and have gone through, the understanding is there. With kids, sometimes there's a disconnect in life after basketball versus going through right now. It may not hit some of those kids till later on, the connection. But I think the fact that it was done planted the seed.
Okay.
Now, how much impact it made, it'd be hard to say.
Okay. Well, I know there were some correlations between your coaching and Coach Russell's coaching. She did have a few of her players who went on to play after their collegiate career concluded. Granted, she did have quite a few All-Americans also with Denise Goings, Linnell Jones, and Carolyn Walker and Pam King. From last year's team, didn't you have a young lady who has gone on to pro ranks?
Oh, absolutely. Shaquanda Wiggins. She is overseas currently playing, doing very well. She always sends out tweets and we stay in contact, and she's doing a wonderful job. She got to try out for a WBA combine. She got a nice agent, has a nice contract overseas, so she's still representing Kentucky State very well. She wears that with a badge of honor, and I always say how proud I am of her. And then also it encourages our younger young ladies that that is a possibility if that's something they want to do. And I do realize that Denise Goins and Pam King and some of those other ones, there is a large gap between when they were able to go versus now, with women's basketball really propelling and being so much more athletic, and it's so much harder to do these things that it's nice to see that is still a possibility here at Kentucky State.
Okay. Do you think that your athlete being able to go pro has helped maybe in your recruiting and help as far as promoting your program? Oh,
absolutely. Anytime you can help kids go overseas or play professionally, that is always a huge recruiting point. And also the success of the program as a whole is always a huge selling point in terms of getting better kids and the excitement of wanting to be a part of something bigger than themselves, of course.
Okay. As far as this year's team, what are some of your outlook, or what's your major outlook as far as your conference? I believe are you ranked number one in your or were you ranked number one preseason coming into conference?
Absolutely, we were ranked preseason coming into the conference, and obviously you have we're in a position to have a target on our back, which is new, versus us chasing, and holding on to that is always a focus, but. It is and it isn't. The main focus is making sure we're playing as a team, to make sure we're playing disciplined basketball, to make sure that we're playing hard. And if we're doing those things, we'll be able to maintain what we need to maintain throughout the year.
Okay. Besides the expectations coming from the program, I mean, that has to be a lot of pressure on these young ladies, knowing that everybody's gunning for them now because of the success of last year's team. How well have they been able to handle it so far?
I think we're handling it okay right now. You know, we're still, there's always adjustments being made early in the year, trying to find our continuity. But overall, I think we're handling it pretty well. You know, always as a coach, there's always going to be work to be done in terms of molding us as a cohesive team. But by the end of the year, as long as we're gelling and clicking, then that's what matters the most. How well you're playing going into the tournament, how well you're playing going into the last stretch of the season. Right now, we're still a work in progress.
Okay. Who were some of your top returners coming from last year's team?
Top returners, obviously Shea Horton, who was picked preseason all-conference, our top shooter. Logan Powell, who we lost at the end of last year in the tournament, which we felt like hurt our chances in going deeper. We feel like is a top returner in the post. Taylor Sanders, who played quite a few minutes last year, split minutes at the point guard position. Goes towards our continuity and leadership of the team on the court. And then we had players that were returning from last year's team, like Brooklyn Sharpley, who's having a great season this year, who really stepped up for us in the NCAA tournament in terms of being a starter and giving us a great performance, has built on that and has been an impact for us this year. As well as Daphne Brown. We have some returners that didn't play a whole lot that we're looking to hopefully see them turn the corner this year. Alyssa Brown, who is from Iowa, who's in the post, who is returning but had a redshirt season last year due to injury. And I'm trying to think. I think that's it as far as returners from last year's season. But I think we have a pretty good foundation to build on.
Okay. Well, who were some of your top newcomers this year, and how well have they meshed with the rest of the team?
Well, it's hard to say that some of them, I think all of them are top folks. So Jamisha Mosley, who is from Oakwood, Kentucky, who's doing an excellent job for us. In fact, is leading us in scoring right now. She comes off the bench for us and has been in a starring role for us offensively. Alexandria Stanford, who is a transfer point guard, who's great for us in transition, has led us in scoring some this year. Intricate part of our transition offense, has done a great job for us and is a starter. Samantha Runblade, who was, and Jamisha and her were both JUCO All-Americans. Samantha is the other shooter for us. We're trying to get her going, trying to get her more shots, but also a starter, great team player, great IQ. Aaliyah Gibson, who played at Iowa Lakes, averaged a double-double there, is a starter for us as well. She's long, she plays in the post for us, gives us a little bit of shooting in the post as well. She's starting, but I feel like she has not had her breakout game yet, but does very well for us. Who else? Alexis Stollard from Louisville, Kentucky. Transfer as well has led us in scoring a couple games. One of our better defenders has started some this year. But again, we're still trying to work out. We got so many people that can do so many things in terms of scoring, playing defense. It's still a work in progress, and how that all fits together and fits together for them. As coaches, we see all the pieces fitting together exactly the way they're supposed to, but it's getting the players to see those pieces come together. And that's the part that we want to have rolling before we get, as we go into the last stretch of the year, and especially going into the tournament.
Okay. Who are some of your upcoming opponents who might pose a big challenge for you?
Well, definitely tonight we play Benedict College, who's always posed a challenge for us. They'll be very physical. They'll be deep. We have not played them at home in a few years, so it'd be exciting for us to have them here, for us to have an opportunity to play them at home. So they're always a conference rival for us, and it always seems to be us and Benedict when it comes down to it. I think they led the Eastern Division last year. We led the Western Division, and so that's always a rival. So that's a big challenge for us, and as well as they were one of the teams that beat us in the regular season last year. So obviously this is a big game for us tonight.
Okay. As far as the rest of your outlook, do you have any other non-conference games that you play from here on?
Oh, yes. We go to Kentucky Wesleyan's tournament the 19th and 20th of December, late tournament, and we're gonna play Trevecca Nazarene. First game, it's a classic, and we play Kentucky Wesleyan again in their classic at Kentucky Wesleyan. That's going to be a challenge because again, it's a road classic. We'll be in the fire down there. We've already beat Kentucky Wesleyan, so I'm sure they'll be pumped to play us. And so, again, it'll be a good experience for our kids to be in the fire. We've had quite a few home games, and so, we got to get used to getting ready to play on the road. We also play Trevecca Nazarene. They come to our place later in the season as a non-conference game. And I believe our very last conference game is the very last game of our regular season, which is Georgetown College, which is right down the road. I think this will be the first time that they've come here since I've been coaching here, which I think is a good game in terms of just bragging rights within the state. Good game as far as how close they are in proximity to the university. So that would be a big game.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that especially Georgetown has been a very good program over the years in the NAIA.
Absolutely.
And so it would definitely be interesting to see how the two different styles are going against each other. Do you have plans in the future, and this is getting kind of away from this particular season, do you have plans in the future to try to play even more Kentucky teams?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and a lot of the teams that we're playing this year as non-conference games will be returned. They're home and home, so we'll play a lot of the same teams going into next season. But anytime you can play within your state is good for the budget, it's good for the kids, it's good for the state in terms of just bragging rights and recruiting as well. So we're going to always try to play teams within the state if we can.
Okay. Are there any plans, or do you think that you're going to try to get some of these top Division I teams to play you, like a Louisville or a Western Kentucky University or even UK, especially since Western's coach used to coach here?
Right. That's always touch and go. We always want to play teams within the state, but we always don't have control in whether or not they choose to play us. So, we'll always try, whether that comes, into play. Obviously, we have no control of that. But we have in the past. We've played Moorhead State. We've played, we scrimmaged Eastern in the past. But again, we have no control over who chooses to play us. So we always try to get into Division I if we can.
Right. Okay. And as we start wrapping up this interview, what would be your message to maybe future young ladies who want to play for this program?
That we run a great program. We're a winning team, but it's not all about. We don't win at all costs. I want good student athletes. I want good people on this team. We do quite a bit of community service, and we work really, really hard here. So I'm looking for the total package. I'm not looking for just a great basketball player. I'm looking for a great student. I'm looking for a great person, and to carry that with pride and want to be a part of something bigger than yourself.
Okay. And the final question is, you mentioned community service, and also one of the things that I've noticed with Kentucky State athletics between the teams, it seems that there's a big competition as far as who has the highest GPA overall. Is that something that you really embrace, that you and your young ladies really embrace?
Well, definitely this year, this semester, we really try to embrace that. They've worked really hard. I've been really proud of the midterm grades. So, hopefully they'll finish the way we think they will in having some of the highest GPAs that they've had in a long time in the program. So, yes, I definitely think they've embraced that. I see weekly or bi-weekly reports of those grades, and we're definitely on the right track in achieving what we want to achieve collectively as a team, because that is also one of our goals, not only to win, the conference championship and the division, but we want that academic award as well. So, we want to be great in all areas, and as the president say, be excellent in all things. So that's what we're trying to do.
So in other words, if you're a young lady wanting to play for Kentucky State, you got to be ready to work just as hard in the classroom as you are out on the court.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Coach, for your time, and that's a wrap.
All right.